I'll call this meeting of the Albemarle County School Board back to order. Do we have a motion?
We do. I move that the board certify by recorded vote that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Spillman, seconded by Dr. Acuff. Could we have a roll call vote on this, please, Christine?
Mr. Chuck Pace,
Yes.
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. Graham Page,
Yes.
Dr. Berlin,
Yes.
Ms. Spillman,
Yes.
Chair Lee.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we have a motion coming out of closed.
We do, Chair Lee. I move that this board adopt the teacher nominations for 2024-25.
I second.
Moved by Dr. Acuff and seconded by Mr. Chuck Pace. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? All right, so moved. Thank you. Next, we will start with our roll call. Let's start with Josiah Black.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Josiah Black, School Division Counsel.
Matthew Hawes, Superintendent.
Allison Spillman, at-large representative.
Ellen Osborne, Scottsville District Representative.
Rebecca Berlin, Whitehall Representative.
Judy Lee, Rivanna District.
Kate Acuff, Jack Jewett District.
Graham Page, Miller District.
Chuck Pace, Rio.
Patrick McLaughlin, Assistant Superintendent.
Claire Kaiser, Assistant Superintendent.
Helen Dunn, Public Affairs and Strategic Communications Officer.
Christine Thompson, Clerk of the Board.
Daphne Kaiser, Assistant Superintendent.
Officer Allen, Elmer County.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have a moment of silence. I know that we will be thinking of ACPS graduate Elijah Witt, who served as a student representative on the school board and has passed. Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Acuff, seconded by Mr. Graham Page. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. All right. So moved. Next, we have approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I second.
Moved by Dr. Berlin, seconded by Mr. Chuck Pace and Ms. Allison Spillman. Is there any discussion? Nope. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay. Consent agenda passes. Next, we have announcements. We'll start with school board superintendent business.
I'm going to just cede my time to our spotlight, which I'm really excited about, and it's bittersweet because while we are recognizing our retirees and wish them the best, I'm kind of sad to see them go. They've done outstanding work in our schools and in our departments and serving our students. They'll be missed, and so just going to pass on that time. Thank you, Chair Lee.
So I do believe we have Rosalind Schmidt with a state budget update. No? No? Okay.
I didn't want to get in front of the retirees. Just very briefly, Rosalind Schmidt, Chief Operating Officer. As you heard in the news, the state does finally have a budget. You approved a budget back in April based on the conference budget, which was presented in March. And so when comparing what your budget was to the ones ultimately approved by the governor and General Assembly last week, there is about a $750,000 shortfall, meaning there's less state revenue than what we had adopted. The main driver of that shortfall is related to sales tax. The good news is we were anticipating some variability in states, and so your budget included a contingency measure which had an unallocated expenditure of $700,000. So coincidentally, similar amount. So at this time, we don't recommend taking any action, but we're still awaiting further calculations.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And then, Dr. Heiser, do you want to go or do you want to hold off? Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Ayanna Mitchell, Director of Equity Education, Office of Community Engagement. Good evening. I wanted to quickly share with you a little bit of updates. We had our equity conference this past Saturday. We're here to just talk about our culturally responsive teaching programming, where we're really focused on closing achievement gaps. And we know that our work has shown that as it accelerates learning for our students of color and our linguistically diverse students. So we have a team who does this work with us. If they could please stand and come on up here with me. Stephen Turner, Dr. Duran Battle, Rosara Gonzalez Munez, Megan Washburn, Dr. Melissa Hairston, and Dr. Rusty Carlock have all worked to support our educators across the school division this year. We did make changes to our program where we restructured so that we can make it more accessible based on the feedback that we received over the years for what they needed, what our educators asked for, and this is what that looks like. And the conference this weekend was wonderful. We had about 50 people who came and celebrated, and we had 145 recipients of our micro-credential and certification. We have 311 people who completed the Culturally Responsive Teaching book study, which is our foundational text, and we have 510 people on record this year who have entered our credentialing programming from either from the very beginning and have participated in our program thus far, leading us to the outcomes of getting everyone credentialed by 2026. We additionally wanted to recognize that we had Equity Educators of the Year from Red Hill, Agner-Hurt, our Special Programs and Evaluation Director, many of our DRTs, and some administrative teams. And I just wanted to ask all of those who received their credential this year and who were recognized for Equity Educators of the Year, if they would please stand at this time. Thank you. Would you like them to?
I did attend, and it was wonderful. I always, the energy around our equity work is fantastic, and so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought the student panels were also quite good. It's good to hear from our students directly.
And also the teachers panel was really enlightening.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have 6.2, Introduction of the School Board Student Representatives for 2024-2025. Tonight's my pleasure to introduce our new student representatives for the 2024-25 school year. The Student Representative Program was adopted by our school board in 2019 to more closely represent the interests of our students. Beginning next year, we will have one representative from each comprehensive high school, as well as community lab. In total, we had 47 students who applied, a phenomenal amount of interest. I couldn't be more pleased to announce our reps. Reps, please stand when I call your name and tell our audience a bit about you. We have Isabel Wang, she, they, an 11th grade student at Albemarle High School. Isabel is a strong representative of Albemarle High School and all ACPS students due to her active listening, leadership, and communication. As a peer tutor, Isabel uses active listening to foster empathetic engagement and create an environment of mutual respect. She is also an active leader in various clubs and organizations, including YAPIC, the Student Equity Board, varsity volleyball, and peer tutoring. Her involvement in these groups allows her to interact with peers and take action based on their feedback, demonstrating her commitment to addressing their needs. From Community Lab, we have Cam Roper, he, they, an 11th grade student. Cam brings a wealth of experience and dedication to representing his peers. He is a member of the Student Senate, you can stand, has actively fought to remove fat suits from theater productions and is involved in the Queer Student Alliance, QSA. Additionally, Cam has been working on a student voice project to implement and protect sensory rooms in county schools, demonstrating his commitment to making schools more inclusive and supportive. Next, we have from Monticello, Musa Ahmed, who is an 11th grade student. As a strong representative for Monticello High School and all ACPS students, Musa prioritizes inclusivity and ensures that every voice is heard. His dedication to improving the school environment comes from his commitment to understanding and addressing the needs of every student. And we have from Western Albemarle, Margaret Lee, she, her, an 11th grade student. Margaret believes that the most important quality of a representative is the ability to listen. She understands that no one person can experience every act of prejudice, discrimination, or injustice. As a heterosexual Asian American woman, Margaret can represent her fellow Asian American peers, but knows she cannot represent all minorities, ethnicities, and sexual orientations through her own experiences alone. However, she can listen, give a voice to the marginalized, provide hope, inspire, and serve as a role model with her willingness to act. So, welcome all, and we look forward to working with you next year. Thank you. Next, we have our Spotlight on Education, recognition of retirees with Dr. Claire Kaiser. With Dr. Claire Kaiser. I'm here. Oh, there you are.
Good evening, board members, staff, families, and guests. I'm Claire Kaiser, Assistant Superintendent for Organizational Development, and I'm going to sit here so that you can see the people who are really being honored tonight as they come up. I thank you all for being here today as we come together to celebrate and honor the dedicated service of our teachers and support staff from across the school division who are retiring this year. It is a time for us to acknowledge the incredible contributions each of these individuals have made on Albemarle County Public Schools. We are a better and a stronger school division because of each of them. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our retirees, their families, friends, and all of our colleagues and guests who have joined us here today for this special occasion. Your presence here is a testament to the profound impact these individuals have had on you and your community and our community. I would like to also recognize and thank the Human Resources team who has done incredible work behind the scenes to make tonight's ceremony possible, and also our Strategic Communications Department as well. Today, we will recognize 65 retirees. We will celebrate your hard work, dedication, and passion. Each one of you has played a vital role in shaping the minds and lives of countless students, and your influence will be felt for generations to come. Your commitment to education has been the foundation of our school division's success, and for that, we are eternally grateful. No matter your role in Albemarle County Public Schools, you have touched the lives of so many, and your impact truly is immeasurable. Tonight, I will read the names of all of our retirees. For those of you who are in the audience, when your name is called, we ask that you do come forward. You'll first receive a certificate from Jenny Stearns right here in front, and then we will ask that you come up onto the dais and have the opportunity to go around and be greeted by each of the board members. As you exit the stage, we'll just have Patrick will gather you off to the side, and then at the end, we'll have everybody come up together for a group picture. We'll go over those logistics again later on if need be. Each of the retirees tonight is going to receive the certificate. We also have a plaque up here, a sample of what will be mailed to your house, just to honor your time here in Albemarle County. So with that, I am going to start by reading the names, and Sarah's going to do a little bit of a slideshow so you can see them up in front of you. Ernie Almanza, teacher at Henley Middle School, 10 years. Kevin Anstein, lead bus driver, transportation. Deborah Baker, classroom teacher, Journey Middle School.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much.
Caroline Bertrand, classroom teacher, Western Albemarle High School. Elaine Broadus, classroom teacher, Murray Elementary. Frida Campbell, office associate, Burley Middle School.
Thank you for everything with Jackson.
Susan Carter, lead bus driver, transportation. I realize I've forgotten to say their number of years, so I will now start that. Susan has been with us for 29 years. Karen Chisholm, lead bus driver, transportation, 35 years. Virginia Coffey, classroom teacher, Career Elementary School, 18 years. Brenda Cornett, child nutrition program analyst, child nutrition, 19 years. Renee Duval, routing and planning manager, transportation, 21 years. Cynthia Diggs, school nurse, Woodbrook Elementary, 10 years. Cindy Dudley, office associate, Albemarle High School, 6 years. Viv Fuel, school nurse, Scottsville Elementary School, 26 years. Amy Gartner, classroom teacher, Broadestwood Elementary School, 32 years. Phil Jeremita, public affairs and strategic communications officer in community engagement and communications, 13 years. Barbara Gibson, bus driver, transportation, 9 years.
Maybe we should just pause for a second
Sure.
and maybe get things organized.
Thank you, keeping the kids safe.
Laurel Gillette, classroom teacher, Brownsville Elementary, 26 years. Catherine Glover, classroom teacher, Community Lab School, 24 years. Terry Graff, classroom teacher, Mountain View Elementary, 28 years. Mark Green, currently instructional coach, 26 years.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ms. Glover.
Thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you so much.
Steve Heon, athletics director, Western Albemarle, 20 years. Mary Hepner, classroom teacher, Crozet Elementary, 8 years. Ross Holden, school division counsel, 5 years. Tim Howarth, classroom teacher, instruction, 20 years.
Thank you.
William Hughes, classroom teacher, Western Albemarle, 13 years. Craig Jennings, classroom teacher, Burley Middle School, 25 years. Tracy Kelsey, classroom teacher, Woodbrook Elementary, 20 years. Sharon Kessler, autism assistant, Baker Butler Elementary, 25 years.
Thank you, Tracy.
Hannah Kirch, classroom teacher, special education, 18 years. Frank Lawson, classroom teacher, Western Albemarle High School, 34 years. Margaret Leary, teaching assistant, Baker Butler Elementary, 13 years. Lori Mack, classroom teacher, Center for Learning and Growth, 11 years. Martha Massey, classroom teacher, Mountain View Elementary, 33 years. Kevin Matheny, classroom teacher, Western Albemarle, 33 years. Darren Maynard, classroom teacher, Western Albemarle, 35 years. Angela Melton, teaching assistant, Egner Hurt, 23 and a half years. Helen Miller, classroom teacher, Monticello High School, 13 years. Lori Morricone, teaching assistant, Brownsville Elementary, 16 years. Heidi Morse, classroom teacher, Lakeside Middle School, 12 years. Carol O'Neill, office associate, Baker Butler Elementary, 20 years. Ruth Parham, teaching assistant, Stone Robinson Elementary, 29 years. Barbara Parrish, custodian, building services, 30 years. Monica Powinski, teaching assistant, Albemarle High School, 10 years. Fran Reset, classroom teacher, Community Lab, 23 years. Lori Reeves, library media assistant, Baker Butler, 11 years. Helen Roby, classroom teacher, Agner Hurt Elementary School, 30 years. Barb Rosen, classroom teacher, Hollymead Elementary, 24 years. Sybil Road Tash Hunt, classroom teacher, Woodbrook Elementary, 18 years. Paul St. Pierre, bus driver, transportation, 10 years. Tammy Schwab, classroom teacher, Baker Butler, 19 years. Ryan Schell, classroom teacher, Albemarle High School, 18 years. Paul Shepard, classroom teacher at Monticello High School, 7 years. Suzanne Stevens, classroom teacher, Crozet Elementary, 17 years. Dana Strickler, school-based substitute teacher, Crozet Elementary, 17 years. Maria Taveras, custodial team lead, building services, 16 years. Maria Taveras Asulina, classroom teacher, Baker Butler Elementary, 15 years. Dolores Thompson, specialized bus driver, transportation, 29 years. Maureen Tilley, classroom teacher, special education, 19 years. Dorothy Trotta, school nurse, Broadest Wood Elementary, 21 years. Orlando Watkins, bus driver, transportation, 11 years. Jane Watts, transportation assistant, 5.5 years. Charmaine White, Transportation Director, Transportation, 19 years. Ann Whitlock, Classroom Teacher, Brownsville Elementary, 25 years. And Frank Workman, Custodian, Building Services, 36 years. As we will ask all of our retirees to come back up front quickly for a picture.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your retirement. Thank you for everything. Appreciate it.
Thank you, congratulations.
All right, if we could have our retirees come on back up front so we can get your picture. We have some up behind.
I don't know, I was thinking the same thing.
I don't like to be up front. Want a corpse up?
Right here.
The tables will be in the way.
Retirement. That was funny.
As these people are walking back towards their seats and headed off into the evening, I do just want to say to each of you that while you will very much be missed by our students and our colleagues with whom you have worked for so many years, we are also very excited for you as you embark on this new chapter of your lives. We wish you all the very best in your future endeavors, and we hope that your retirement is filled with joy, relaxation, health, and new adventures. And please know that you will always be cherished as part of Albemarle County Public Schools.
I can be reading this while I read the noise.
Well, I'll just give them a chance to get their well-deserved charcuterie cups. Okay. Next, we have public comment. Ellen Osborne is doing public comment, so I will cede the gavel to her.
All right. All right, we welcome public input at our school board meetings. To sign up to speak during the public comment period, you can do so in several ways. You can do it online Sign-up is available from 9 a.m. on the Monday of the meeting week until 2 p.m. on the meeting day. Or by phone, call the school board clerk's office to sign up until 2 p.m. on the meeting day. Or in person, sign up at the meeting is available from 6 p.m. until the public comment period, which is now. Please note that public comment is not received at special board meetings unless specified on the agenda. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. The maximum number of people or groups that may speak at a meeting is 20. In the event there are more than 20 people or groups who wish to speak at a particular meeting, each speaker will be assigned a number, and numbers will be drawn to determine which people or groups will have the opportunity to speak. Speakers should state your name, address, or your voting district. Address comments to the school board. Limit comments to the school board governance or school division operations. And you can also provide written statements and supporting material to the clerk. School board will use a timer to track each speaker's time. Speakers are asked to wrap up their comments by the end of the 3-minute mark. To maintain respect, please refrain from clapping or other audible forms of support. You may raise your hand instead. And debate with the school board is not allowed. The projection system is for staff presentations only. So tonight we have 2 speakers. We have Vernon Lectie first, and then Heidi Gilman Bennett.
Good evening. My name is Vernon Lectie, and I am president of the Albemarle Education Association. Tonight, I wanted to officially let the school board know that the Albemarle Education Association is submitting a request for a certification election pursuant to Section A.7.1 of the school board resolution providing for collective bargaining in Albemarle County Public Schools. The Albemarle Education Association seeks to represent bargaining units of educational support professionals and licensed professionals as described in Section 1 of the collective bargaining resolution. The AEA has a combination of membership records and authorization forms from over 59% of the employees in the Education Support Professionals Bargaining Unit. The AEA also has a combination of membership records and authorization forms from over 80% of the employees in the Licensed Employees Bargaining Unit. Authorization forms supporting this request have been signed within the preceding 12 months. A copy of an unsigned AEA authorization form is enclosed in our official letter of petition for an election, which I will be giving tonight to Dr. Claire Kaiser and Dr. Haas. By completing this form, employees have indicated that they wish to have AEA represent them in collective bargaining. All authorization forms and membership records have been prepared for submission to a labor relations neutral should the school board direct verification in accordance with Section 7.A.3 of the collective bargaining resolution. We look forward to continuing to work with Albemarle County Public Schools Human Resources Department, Superintendent Haas, Mr. Black, and the school board on the next steps in the process to achieve collective bargaining for the workers of Albemarle County Public Schools. Tonight, I wish to thank all of the workers of Albemarle County Public Schools, the more than 50 organizers spread across every work site in the division, and the entire community of Albemarle County for their support as we continue to push forward in making it possible for the workers of the school division to collectively negotiate their contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Vernon. Heidi Gilman Bennett.
Hi, my name is Heidi Gilman Bennett, Samuel Miller District. I'm here tonight as an individual parent to speak about chronic absenteeism. My son, who was recently injured in a serious car crash, racing to get to Saturday school. Your school board policies and the implementation practices are causing serious stress and punishing students and families. Put aside for a minute the unexcused absences and truancy. For excused absences, my kid and many others are being required to attend buyback sessions. At the high school level, yes, students are required by the state to meet seat time requirements, but school boards across Virginia have enacted policies far more equitable than ACPS. For example, allowing waivers for interruptions beyond a student's control. Our kids are facing unnecessary consequences and school staff unnecessary scrambles. High school credits aside, elementary and middle school students are being told to attend buyback sessions. Yes, it is great, genuinely, to offer free tutoring for kids who need to catch up academically, but there are also kids who have missed days due to migraines, surgeries, COVID, respiratory illnesses, fevers, who aren't behind. Families are hearing vague threats about state mandates. In fact, what the state is actually requiring is for ACPS as a division to face accreditation penalties for chronic absenteeism rates, which become an issue because ACPS is also in trouble for academic achievement and gaps. Superintendents have recently been allowed flexibility by VDOE to write off absences for buyback sessions students attend. But just because you can does not mean you should. If you were to design a student-focused and equitable attendance policy, it would not be this. Families should not be required to get expensive doctor visits and notes, nor take time off work to transport students to study halls. You should not penalize students because their school bus arrives late. High schoolers should not be denied credit when they've mastered course content. This is not, as you've responded to me multiple times, simply my personal child's issue. It's about both school board policy and implementation. I ask you to take responsibility and appropriate action. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment for tonight.
Gavel.
Oh, that's what you really wanted.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ellen. Next, we have our school division work session, our early childhood education preschool by Lisa Molinaro. No questions. Oh, we are running early. Yeah.
Hey, Chris. Good evening. I actually got sidetracked by Ross. It was so nice to see him back. He told me all about his very, very lovely travels. So good evening, everybody. My name is Lisa Molinaro, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the lead coach for our Albemarle County Public Preschools. I want to begin this evening by thanking the board for giving us this opportunity to share our story. I believe that it is one worth sharing because it is deeply connected to our ACPS strategic plan and a story of hope. The Oxford Dictionary defines hope as a feeling of expectation, a desire for certain things to happen. I have spent the past 5 years with preschool-aged children, their families, their teachers, and many members of our local community who spend their days shaping the hearts and minds of our school's youngest citizens. Every day, I get to experience what hope looks, sounds, and feels like in our preschool classrooms. I believe a story is best told by the people who write it, and I have some people that are joining me this evening. I think they might be standing out in the back, Chandra, so you may want to let them know to come on down. Stories are told best by the people who write them, and so with me, I want to introduce Emlyn Laird, Bright Stars teacher from Agner Hurt. Ryan Galganowitz, an early childhood special education teacher at Baker Butler. The Bright Stars team, Debbie Sheeler and Allison Subra from Greer Elementary School, and my collaborative partner in all things preschool, Joya Petro. She serves as the ECSE coordinator. I believe that your time spent with these individuals this evening will help you see that your investment in our preschool programs is making a positive impact on the lives of our students and the outcomes we hope to achieve in Albemarle County. Our agenda this evening will be spent learning about what pre-K and preschool is and why it is essential, understanding how our program connects to our strategic plan, exploring our current state, and learning more about how we measure the quality of our preschool programs. We will also provide an opportunity for you to sit with our teachers side by side to better understand what it looks like for our students to be learning in our preschool classrooms. The first question is, what is pre-K and why is it important? Pre-kindergarten, known as pre-K, is an educational program designed for 4-year-olds. As the name suggests, the goal is to prepare children for kindergarten and future success in life. A quality pre-K program is designed to help build social, physical, emotional, and cognitive skills. At the same time, it introduces classroom learning so that children are familiar with the process when they begin kindergarten. In addition, it has a strong family service component in which families are assisted in accessing community services to create stability, opportunity, and a network of support to ensure academic success. ACPS specifically offers our pre-K programs to our most at-risk 4-year-olds, as identified through a coordinated enrollment application process, which is aligned with the guidelines outlined in our VPI, Virginia Preschool Initiative grant. Albemarle County offers Bright Stars as a pre-K program, while early childhood special education and Head Start programs are seen as preschool programs because they serve both 3-year-olds and 4-year-old children at risk. It's important for the board to know that while our Virginia Preschool Initiative grant does permit us to serve 3-year-olds, we currently do not due to limited space in our schools. We experienced this as recently as this year when we had to temporarily relocate our Woodbrook Bright Stars program to Agner-Hurt. My job this evening is to help inform you of the current climate of preschool, so I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to share with you that one of the most pressing issues for families in our greater Charlottesville-Albemarle community is finding affordable childcare and preschools. As part of the preschool network, we work closely with our local CDI Head Start program and the Greater United Way's Mixed Delivery and Early Scholars program to serve the many families needing quality preschools. But capacity versus need is significantly out of balance at this current time, with far more families having need with no options. So why pre-K? High-quality pre-K programs help to prepare children for the demands of school and life. Research tells us that public pre-K programs provide a positive place for children to learn, play, grow, and begin their school experience. They are taught to develop habits and practices for lifelong learning and to see themselves as competent, confident students. In essence, it is the very first step we take here in Albemarle County at reaching the goal of developing thriving students. This quote really resonates with me. I've spent my entire career working with young children, and John F. Kennedy said, "Children are the world's most valuable resource and the best hope for our future." By placing your trust in our staff and our schools, I believe that we are making a difference in the world at large. Here are some data points that help us better understand our why. This data exemplifies why we must continue investing in our preschool programs. Last year, 1,060 students graduated from Albemarle County Public Schools. Each year, seniors are asked through a survey to share their plans after high school. The survey data reflected the following. The orange bars represent our overall graduates that were non-Bright Star students, and the blue bar represents students who graduated in 2023 but started their education here in Albemarle as a Bright Star. 66.2% of Bright Star students planned to attend a 2- or 4-year college as compared to the 78.8% non-Bright Stars. 4% of our Bright Stars plan to attend a trade or technical school, which was equal to the non-Bright Stars graduates. 27% of our Bright Stars, compared to 16% of our non-Bright Star graduates, chose to seek employment upon high school graduation. And 3% of the Bright Stars graduates reported that they had no plans, as compared to 1% of the non-Bright Star graduates. This is not surprising, as we serve our most at-risk students, but in our ideal scenario, there would be no difference. You should see no difference in these comparisons between what we have planned. To talk a little bit more about what we do and why we do it, I want to introduce you guys to Asia Christmas. So Asia was a Bright Star student in Miss Geisha Goodman's classroom at Stone Robinson Elementary School in 2001 to 2002. The middle picture shows Asia here now with her teacher more than 15 years later. Asia graduated from Monticello High School in 2015 and began her post-high education at the University of Virginia, majoring in education. This past Sunday, Asia received her master's in education, and as the picture shows, she is very ready to be hired. When I asked Asia how Bright Stars impacted her educational journey, she said, "Bright Stars gave me some really great teachers who believed in me so fiercely. They pushed me to try harder and more challenging things. As I grew, they stayed involved in my life and encouraged me to take more challenging classes to boost my self-confidence even more so that I was prepared to enter college. They supported me through all my ups and downs." Asia's a kid that came from a background where some would say college was not possible for her. Because of the investment we make in our students as young as 4, we give them hope. Preschool is a story of hope. It is a time and a place that we begin to equip our students with the mindset that they can do anything and they can be anything. When we think about preschool programs offered as a part of Albemarle County Public Schools, we have 4 primary funding streams that support our programs. The first is Bright Stars, which is funded through the Virginia Preschool Initiative Grant. This is a matched grant between the state and the school division, and it provides the largest number of seats to our students and families. ECSE, otherwise known as Early Childhood Special Education, is funded primarily through school divisions' local funds and a very small allocation from the federal government. When I asked Katie about this, Katie Compel, Director of Special Education, she shared with me that the funds that we get are about the equivalent of 2 special education teaching assistants. We also have one blended Title I VPI pre-K program, which shares the cost of operation at Red Hill Elementary School, and we have one of our classrooms at Agner Hurt Elementary, which is actually triple braided. It gets funding from special education, VPI, and Title I. That particular classroom is currently our only classroom where we would say that it is an inclusive model. We work to ensure that children who have IEPs are placed inside that classroom with children who that are non-disabled. Our Head Start program is fully funded through a federal grant and a small amount of local philanthropic donations. To give you a better picture of what that looks like, whoops. There is a slide, and I'm gonna kind of see if maybe I apologize. We missed a slide. I apologize for that. Right now, we'll go ahead and we're going to go here because this is the nuts and bolts of the program. When I told you that we are deeply connected to our strategic plan, I actually told Claire before I came down this evening, I said, this is where you're going to hear me talk. You're going to see this slide for a while because it's kind of hard to think about preschool without thinking about everything that is on this slide. When you look at our vision, our mission, our values and goals, it would be hard to ignore that the Albemarle County preschool programs were intentionally designed with all of these things in mind long before we published our strategic plan. Our vision states that our learners are engaged in authentic, challenging, and relevant learning experiences, becoming lifelong contributors and leaders in our dynamic and diverse society. As recently as July 2021, the VDOE began requiring all publicly funded schools to adopt a state-approved curriculum to support the development of our new early learning developmental standards. These are the equivalent to SOLs in preschool. With the support of our teachers, our administrators, and families, ACPS Board adopted Creative Curriculum for Preschool as a resource to support learning experiences for our students. This curriculum was intentionally selected because it engages our students in daily project-based real-world investigations of topics that all preschool students and families can access. Things like the study of trees, or clothing, water, buildings. Things that every single child who comes into the classroom can make connections to and with so that they can share their understandings, their thinking, and their experiences with others. Our curriculum makes it possible for every child to contribute to the community of learners. Preschool teachers are skilled at taking things in our everyday lives and helping children develop an awareness of the world around them and how they can positively impact this world by contributing their knowledge and experiences. A recent scenario of this being played out is very recently, our Woodbrook teachers was having the kids engage in a study of gardening, and they helped them understand that gardening is vital to us as human beings. It's vital to communities. It's the way that we get our food. And as a part of the project, the teachers planned for the kids to head over to Lowe's, right down the street. And the amazing people at Lowe's did this phenomenal job of teaching the kids about what it is to be a gardener. They got to see firsthand all of the materials and tools that we use when we're gardening. And then to go one step further, they donated several $100s worth of materials so that the children could go back to their classroom and plant their own gardens. That is real life, real world learning. In our mission, we commit to working together as a team to end the predictive value of race, class, special capacity, and gender for our children's success through high-quality teaching and learning. This mission is the purpose of our preschool programs. Almost 30 years ago, we designed our preschools with this mission as our primary goal. Our programs were designed to reduce disparities among our young children upon formal school entry, to reduce or eliminate those risk factors that lead to early academic failure. In our mission, we seek to build relationships with families and communities to ensure every student succeeds. We are one of only a few preschool programs across the state that offer each of our enrolled Bright Star families a personal family support specialist. Through our longstanding partnership with ACDSS, our students, families meet monthly with their family support specialists to work on personal goals that not only improve the quality of life for them and their child, but also works to create strong homeschool partnerships and to help them see their child's teacher and school as an advocate for the needs of their child. I believe that Asia's story is a perfect example of this. Engaging a child's family and school community is a key ingredient identified in high-quality preschool experiences and predicts long-term school success. Our family support specialists work closely with the classroom teachers to ensure that families have a clear understanding of where their child is performing and how they can best support their child at home. Through these partnerships, we are able to educate them on what resources are available in the community to help them and their child access the needed supports. Family coordinators partner with parents to support them in working towards self-identified goals. Historically, parents have indicated a desire to set a goal to further their education related to finances or other areas which may lead them to finding more rewarding employment and supporting increased self-sufficiency. Parents with limited or no English proficiency will often endeavor to enroll in English language class courses. A frequent goal identified by our parents is to learn positive parenting and discipline strategies. In collaboration, the teacher and the family support worker to provide the time, the support, and the resources that help our families meet their identified goals, which results in positively impacting our families while in Bright Stars and far beyond. Our ACPS values of equity, excellence, family and community, and wellness are tightly woven into the fabric of our preschool programs, making them more likely to achieve our goals of thriving students and affirming and empowering our communities. The best way to empower our community is to engage with them in the work that we do. We take great pride in creating community partnerships that contribute to the overall quality opportunities that we offer our students and our families. We have long-standing partnerships with the Paramount Theater, the Discovery Museum, and Wild Rock Foundation, each making it possible for our preschool students and their families to engage in high-quality field experiences that extend and enrich the students' learning at no cost. These experiences give our students access to see their community outside of their home and school, while personally connecting the child's learning to the parent, while also providing some pretty special memories for them. Another partnership that I'm particularly proud of, because it has been with us since we've opened the program, so I want you to think about 30 years. For 30 years, the Quilters Guild of Charlottesville has provided handmade quilts and books for every single child to use daily during nap time. Children then get to take this quilt home with them. I can tell you, my daughter was personal friends with somebody who attended Bright Stars, and that child still actually has her quilt. Sarah's 36. My guess is that quilt's probably wrapping up her baby. So when we think about the idea of the impact that our community has on our children, I can tell you that it goes very deeply. This fall, we established a partnership with Front Porch Music Resource Center with the support of our Community Engagement Department and some very generous philanthropic community members. Dr. Kaiser made it possible for all preschool students to have weekly music classes. These are just a few examples of our community's role in our ACPS preschool programs. There is an old African proverb that is said to have originated from the Nigerian Igbo culture that says, "Oran a azu noa," which is loosely translated to, "It takes the community or village to raise a child." The phrase conveys the idea that many people are needed to provide a safe, healthy environment for children to develop and flourish. Here at ACPS, our preschool programs work hard to ensure that we use all the community resources we have available to us, because the more we show our community to our students, the more they feel connected to be a part of it. So we're just going to take a second to kind of look at this timeline. It's a big one. 30 years. We're going to celebrate 30 years of Bright Stars here in Albemarle County. 1994-95 is when we opened our first program. We continued to open programs every year for several years thereafter. But I think the piece that I really want to focus on is this right here, this 2021 dot on the timeline, because it's a big change. This is when ACDSS handed the grant over to Albemarle County Public Schools. While we were deeply involved in the grant, we didn't actually manage the grant. And starting in July of 2021-22, the grant did become ours. And I think it was the perfect time for that to occur, because the face of preschool at the state level was changing deeply. It was the onset of accountability for pre-K. We've known accountability in K-12 education for a long time, but this takeover allows us to really manage the most important parts of our program. So to kind of take a look at our current state. Earlier, I shared with you this idea of funding and braided funding, and this is just kind of a blank to see the difference between the funding that occurs for each of our programs. One of the things that's really important to know and understand is who gets into the program. So VPI is a program that requires us to look very deeply at the children that we are accepting. And we do this through a pretty rigid application process. And that application is actually a shared application across all of the programs. There's a benefit to that, because when a child leaves Albemarle to go to Charlottesville because their family has been displaced, they don't have to start over. It's a shared application. I pick up the phone, I call Sheila Sparks in the city, and I say, we have a family that is transferring over. And because they already have all the information, everything's done. The child can start the very next day. When thinking about how we place children in the program, there are 4 categorically eligible placements: homelessness, parents with limited education, and by limited education, that means they did not graduate from high school. If they received a GED, that doesn't count as categorically eligible. It is truly families whose parents did not have the opportunity to finish high school. We also accept now categorically students that are identified by special education. These children do have to have a IEP under IDEA, and then and probably one of the largest categories that we enroll families in is this particular one. Families' federal level of poverty is 200% or less. So these are the categories that fill our rooms. While K-12 programs have worked hard to foster equity by de-leveling heterogeneous groups when possible, the nature of our pre-K process creates classrooms with almost all students having high levels of economic need. We should consider this in the future when designing our preschool programs. This slide kind of gives you a good look at the number of applications that we received this year. We received a total of 322 applications. The numbers beside each school are the number of applications we actually received from that school community. 206 of those 322 families were placed in a preschool program that was their child's kindergarten school. So 64% of our children are in school right now, learning about their school, and they will be the experts when August rolls around and they're sitting in a room with a bunch of new kindergartners. They're going to feel a real sense of accomplishment and pride because they know where they are at. Of the remaining that we have placed, we placed 41 students out of district. I do want to take a little bit of time to just highlight that very high number at Baker Butler. You can see that Baker Butler, the community there is changing, and there is far more need at Baker Butler for children to engage and have access to a high-quality preschool. Those 21 students, you can see that there are 36 applications that came in. Those 21 students are students whose families could transport them to a preschool. There were possibly, when you look and you see that the wait list for Baker Butler had 3 children, those 3 children actually had greater need than the 21 we placed, but unfortunately, we were not able to give them a seat because they weren't able to get transportation from where they live to where the location of a preschool that had space was. Another thing to pay attention to is the number of applications, just over 200%. I think this is I've been paying attention since we've done the coordinated enrollment, and I am now doing applications. This is my second year in doing this. I've seen this continue to grow. I think what we're finding is that while we have identified families of poverty, we have a significant number of families in Albemarle County who actually live just above the threshold of poverty. So the idea of being able to afford a preschool option for their children is pretty low. And so we continue to watch that number. And then lastly, what I will say about the 16 that are on wait list, because I think it's important to know this because you're going to see a slide that's going to talk about placement. The children who are on the wait list, a majority of those who are waitlisted were waitlisted because of the transportation issue. They are on a wait list for a school, but that school's program is at capacity. So it makes it a little bit harder to get them into the programs. So this slide actually shows kind of the breakup of where our classrooms are. We have 11 total Bright Star classrooms. 2 are at Agna Hurt, 2 are at Greer, 2 are at Mountain View, 1 at Red Hill, 1 at Scottsville, 1 at Stone Robinson, and 2 at Woodbrook. We have 9 ECSE classrooms. Some of those are in the same schools as our Bright Stars programs. We also have 3 what we consider to be self-contained ECSE A-based preschools. And then I want to highlight the Head Start program, and I think it's important because you guys have asked about this. We started the year with 5 Head Start programs. As you guys are fully aware, MACA Head Start, who was the agency managing the grant, actually relinquished the grant in early February, late January. When we took our break for spring break, we found out about 3 weeks before that they were not going to reopen all 5 programs. And so we are currently operating with a Head Start program at Agna Hurt and a Head Start program at Crozet. I did find out as recently as last week that CDI has asked us to offer any application for the Greer Head Start program or the Holly Mead program. They want us to actually consider for our preschool programs because at this current time, they are not able to say with definitiveness that those programs are going to reopen. They have to get those sites licensed, and probably the more challenging part is they actually have to get them staffed. This kind of just gives you a little bit of a blink of what the enrollment looks like. I want you to realize that this 193 out of 196, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have seats open. It goes without saying that our families are very transient. We have one classroom here at Greer that the teacher has 18 today. But between the beginning of the year and now, she's had 22 children in her classroom. So children move in and children move out. And we always have children that if the parents can get them there, or if they live in the district, we get them there. So this number, I can tell you, changes on any given day at any given time. Our ECSE classroom, I think, is also really interesting to pay attention to, and Julia's going to talk a little bit about this in a couple of slides. But they have an ideal, like we don't cap ECSE. When children have IEPs, we place them. And so you can kind of see that sometimes, like here at Greer, they're actually putting more children in the room than what they designed the classroom for. And that's because this is a big need. This is a growing need. And then the other thing that I will tell you is that when you think about enrolling in our program, we do run what's called a year-long rolling enrollment process. We don't have a begin date and an end date for when we enroll our students. We take kids all the way up until the last 5-6 weeks of school, because we realize that it takes a while for a 4-year-old to get acclimated, so we don't have them come in and start. While the state allocated Albemarle County 213 seats for our VPI Bright Stars grant this year, we could only offer 196 seats due to space capacity. Our allocation for the upcoming school year has increased to 222. These additional seats have been allocated, and the budget you recently approved provides funding for adding another Bright Stars classroom. We are so grateful for this generosity in funding this program, and we are just beginning the process of adding this much-needed addition. This slide reflects our preschools. Basically, you can see that the racial and ethnicity groups are a majority-minority program. I don't think that probably surprises us, but I did want to make sure that you saw that the percentages of each race and how it is represented in ethnicity. Probably something that has changed the most in our preschool programs is this data. So just as the landscape of Albemarle County has changed over time, so too has the makeup of our Bright Stars program. This slide reflects the current percentage of children enrolled in our preschool programs with limited English proficiency, and you can see that that's at 39.3%. If you take those same schools where these classrooms sit and you average the limited English proficiency at those schools, it compares to about 17.4%. So you can see that our preschool programs are I like to say we're very fortunate to have the diversity that sits inside the classroom, because it teaches our kids about the world around them. But it also presents challenges, as you can imagine. This is just a quick blink slide. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but it's certainly something to pay attention to. The blue bar is the percentage of children enrolled in a preschool program as compared to the percentage of limited English proficiency in their school. I think it's really important to note the Woodbrook School. They have over 70% of their children who come in on day one not speaking any English. As we get ready to talk about the accountability, I think that's a really important factor to keep in mind when the way we test our children to see what they know and understand is by using the English language. Julia, do you want to take a minute to kind of talk about the special education?
Yeah. I help supervise the early childhood special education classes. So we wanted to take a look at the increase in numbers of students who have IEPs in pre-K and compare it to the just total growth of the special education students in the county. So you can see there is a significantly different increase. So, I mean, things are increasing all over, but pre-K students who are eligible for special education is increasing a lot. The state has advised us to account for a 3% rise in identified students with IEPs. And I was seeing that, it's a 10% increase, a 12% increase, and then another 10% increase this year. So it's a lot of students. A lot of students we have to take into account. Yeah. This is just the students in pre-K with IEPs, the amount of students. So from that last slide, these are the numbers just increasing, going down during COVID, but continuing to increase. And then this is sort of within this year, the makeup of our students with IEPs and where they are served. So many of them are served in ECSE classrooms. Some of them are served in the community if they attend a private daycare or a private preschool. Some of them are served in our Bright Stars programs, and then some of them are served through a sort of walk-in speech model. So students that might qualify for speech language services would receive those services at a local elementary school. So that orange chunk right there is a combination of Bright Star students, but also students who may just receive speech language services and are identified as having a speech language impairment. And then we have a few students too who maybe are served in some other way. Sometimes we reach out to community partnerships like VIA to help support certain students, or there are students who have an IEP, but for whatever reason they are unable to attend a school or a program that's recommended for them. So yeah.
Thanks, Joy.
So as of August 2023, all publicly funded preschool programs are required to participate in the VQ B5 Unified Measurement and Improvement System, translated to Virginia Quality Birth to 5. I think that one of our teachers that you're going to get to work with tonight actually developed this, and I think it does a really nice job of capturing everything that goes into the picture of evaluating the quality of preschool programs. We have many things that are required by the state as part of this. Whereas SOL assessments determine the quality of K-12 programs by measuring how well children have developed mastery of standards of learning, the Virginia Quality Birth to 5 program focuses on the quality of interactions between adults and their students in the classroom. Research shows that interactions between adults and children are important for early childhood education because they help children develop social relationships, language skills, and cognitive abilities. Positive and intentional interactions help children feel happier, healthier, and more confident. When we talk about quality at the preschool level, the programs are going to be basically evaluated against an 800-point system. 700 points is the maximum number of points that the quality of interactions can measure, while using a state-approved curriculum gives 100 points. How do we get at these interaction points? Because that's a lot of the quality that you're looking at. It's the bulk. So we use a tool called the Pre-K Class Observation Tool. This is just a really quick blink that you can see. I'm not going to go through this, but what do quality interactions look like in preschool classrooms? Well, the things that we pay the most attention to are things like emotional support, classroom organization, and instructional support. Within each of these three areas, there are categories that make up what makes for good emotional support or what makes for good classroom organization and instructional support. When teachers get observed, we go in with intentionality. We look for the frequency with which these key indicators over here are being demonstrated. And then the teacher is scored from a score of 1 to 7, with 1 being the lowest and 7 being the highest. Excuse me. Each classroom is formally observed 3 times per year by a trained and certified observer. 2 observations are done internally by ACPS trained observers, while 1 observation is conducted by a state-assigned observer. As a trained observer, I have to pass a certified test every year to say that I am still able to walk in that room and assess those indicators against what the pre-K class tool sees as meeting the expectation. In addition to the observations I do, the state comes and does its own observation using the pre-K class tool. The reason for this is to build inter-rater reliability in the scoring. If I score a classroom higher than what the state scores, we actually have to write a letter to the state justifying that, and then they come back and do another observation in that classroom to see if indeed we are on track with our score. Trained and certified class observers use the pre-K class tool to capture the quality of the interactions demonstrated in the classroom for each dimension. Each observation is followed by a feedback cycle to help identify opportunities for improvement, but more importantly, to help identify areas where targeted professional development is needed to improve the overall quality of our programs. This was the draft of the first VQB5 Quality Profile Report. A couple of things to look at is you can kind of see, here is the number of interaction points out of 700 that this school achieved. This is the number of points that they received for using the curriculum. And then this was their total number of points. Classrooms that score between 700 and 800 points will be awarded a quality rating exceeds expectation. Classrooms that score between 400 and 699 points will be awarded a quality rating of meets expectations, and classrooms that score between 100 and 399 points will be awarded a quality rating of needs improvement. Any program receiving needs improvement ratings on their 23-24 VQB5 quality profile will be required to participate in improvement planning, much like our K-12 schools do. In July of 2022, the VDOE made it mandatory that all publicly funded preschools participate in the Virginia Kindergarten Readiness Program screening assessments, otherwise known as VKRP. The new VKRP coordinated assessments measure mathematics, self-regulation, and social skills to complement the Virginia statewide assessment of literacy using the new Pre-K Virginia VALS assessment. By taking this step, we can now offer teachers and families a more holistic view of a child's progress while ensuring that they are kindergarten ready. Research shows that high-quality early learning experiences are critical for young children. However, we know that not all children entering kindergarten have the resources, opportunities, and experiences to develop the foundational skills needed for success in our schools. At the time of implementation of VKRP assessments, 42% of Virginia's children entered school unprepared in at least one or more of the 4 key areas. The VKRP assessments provide information to teachers, schools, divisions, and families that can help change this outcome. This is baseline data for us. So this is our fall pre-K EMAS data. I do want to say, I just received, these are new reports. The state is putting these out for the very first time. I received this about 2 weeks ago. I think it was like May 13th or something. And so it's a little bit lagging because we're at the end of the year. But when you look at this data, I think what's important to pay attention to is this is the state. So when you look at how children performed on the early mathematics assessment system, you can see that our 4-year-olds, as compared to the state 4-year-olds, we had more children that fell in the beginning growth band as compared to the growing growth band and the strong growth band. This is a little bit different because we used to use benchmarks. When you think about the pre-K PALS, they had defined benchmarks. We've moved away from using a defined point in time of where a child should be, and we've gone to thinking about a band, a range of development. It's how our standards are also written. So this really aligns with our standards. The other thing that this does, which is vital at the preschool level, is that by looking at a skill and knowing where a child is on that skill developmentally, a teacher is able to better adjust what she is doing with that child and differentiate it so that we can scaffold it to move up to where they need to be. So when we look at this data, our hope is that we will see this look far more balanced by the end of the year. I think the other thing that I am very fascinated, since it's all new, is I am curious to see how, since we have such a high ELL pop concentration in our preschools, are we being affected by that? Because a lot of times when the teachers are giving these tests, they start giving these in October. The children really haven't had enough time, so when they sit one-on-one with them and start talking to them, they may not even understand what's actually being asked at that time. And this is actually our 3-year-old data. Julia, do you, Oh, you're the best. Thank you. Julia, do you want to talk a little bit? Because I think this data looks really different. And I think the very first thing I want to say is that you need to remember that the N in this data is very small compared to the state, because our program is only for children who are currently enrolled in our ECSE classrooms.
Yeah, I think that you said it all essentially. Since Bright Star is a 4-year-old only program, the only 3-year-olds that we serve in Albemarle County would be through an ECSE or early childhood special education program. So any student that was 3 and received the EMAS math assessment has an IEP and is placed in a special education classroom. So that is a smaller number in comparison to the state, where other counties serve 3-year-olds in different ways. But just keeping that in mind, that there are a lot in the beginning number. I mean, that makes sense to me in some ways, just because I'm sure many of these little kiddos have never been in a preschool setting before oftentimes, and are working on other skills in addition to their math, like speech skills and behavior skills and emotional regulation and things like that. So just keeping that in mind. But yeah.
The other piece that I really want to make sure that you leave here with and understand is that when we look at these growth bands, the most important thing to know is that children in the growing band are identified as on track for kindergarten. That could be misleading by looking at the way they have this laid out. But when children are in the strong band, when they land in the strong band, that means that they are already meeting or exceeding some of the kindergarten expectations. Children who fall in the beginning band in the spring will benefit from extra support as they get ready to start kindergarten in the fall. Having this information is very important to kindergarten teachers, since they typically will not have any baseline data for their students until early October, when they administer the VKRP assessments. That's about 7 weeks of instructional time. So for the children who come out of our preschools, our kindergarten teachers have 7 weeks to really hone in on those children who fell in the beginning bandwidth. We know a lot. We know where their strengths and their weaknesses are when we analyze the data. So I hope as we get more versed in VKRP, the relationship between our preschools and our kindergartens will prove to be vital to improving the quality of outcomes for the kids. Another component of the VKRP assessment, besides the early mathematics assessment screener, is actually something called the CBRS. And the CBRS measures 2 things. And I think it's really, really important that, I like to say we got it right. We got it right here. Preschool is all about socialization, self-regulation. It is about getting kids ready for school. And as part of our VKRP assessments, we look at how well our kids in preschool are doing in developing their social skills and their self-regulation skills. The CBRS, or Child Behavior Rating Scale, is a teacher report that measures a student's self-regulation and social skills development over time in the classroom. Self-regulation skills support students in managing their attention, their emotions, and behaviors in order to adapt to the demands of the school environment. Highly effective preschool classrooms create daily learning opportunities that allow children to recognize their emotions and identify how they feel, so they know how to move forward safely and healthily. When we do well with developing these skills in our students at preschool levels, we actually have the ability to impact our panorama data, because we look at those things later on down the road. Just like the EMAS, the state gave us an opportunity to look at how our children have entered the Albemarle County preschools. You can see that in our 4-year-olds, we look a little bit more closely aligned to the state. And in our 3-year-olds, we're a little bit lagging, but again, I think Julia explained why that might be the case. And then when you look at our social skills, Preschool teachers use their daily interactions with their students to teach social skills. We know that when we focus on teaching young children how to interact appropriately, socially, we are equipping them with the confidence, the self-esteem, and the independence that results in greater school success. Strong social skills can help children build healthy relationships, adapt to changing situations, ask for help appropriately, learn to cooperate with others, be willing to share, and appropriately express their frustration verbally and physically. I like to say it teaches our kids how to play nice. As can be seen from the graph, our students closely compare to other 4-year-olds across the state in the area of their social skill development. We know that what we do in preschool equips our students for kindergarten and beyond. For literacy data, preschool is also shifting to VALS. The state is working to supply us with state and local data about our performance bands, but we have yet to receive this. I can share with you what has been on the school quality profile for kindergarten readiness and literacy. Through that, they may change with the accountability measures that we spoke about earlier. But this year's profile, you can see that 26% of our kindergartners attended a public school, such as those offered by ACPS, as compared to the statewide average of 32. So we are a little bit behind. We're lagging a little bit behind with the number of kids who come into our kindergarten classrooms. We're lagging a little bit behind the state average of them having kindergarten readiness opportunities. And out of all of our kindergartners, regardless of whether they attended preschool experience with us or not, 71% of them came in meeting fall literacy benchmarks in comparison to 77% at the state level. We will continue to try and meet the community's need for pre-K as we get more details in pre-K literacy data from the VALS team. We look to make sure that we're doing our part to raise that 71% by having our ACPS preschool students prepared for literacy. All right. At this time, I like to say you're going to get to do the best part of the meeting. You heard a lot, but what we have planned now is you guys are going to have a break, and our teachers are going to come up and they're going to set at the 2 tables. We would ask that you guys kind of stand. I wasn't sure how the arrangement would be, but if you guys could go to where the tables are, the teachers are going to have some things on the table, and they're going to talk to you about what it looks and feels like to be a preschooler in any one of our Albemarle County Public School classrooms. You're going to get to hear from both ECSE teachers and Bright Stars teachers.
Should we ask questions at the very end of the work session?
Let's do that. Let's do that. We're going to take our break now.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks. We'll be back at 8:12. All right, everyone, gather back up. We're going to meet around the tables. We've got a lot of cool stuff on there. Okay. Yep.
A lot of things.
I expect it to be cool.
I'm not sure what's the best way to. I don't know. We're not quite sure either. Display things. We can right. I was saying. This is sort of the special ed corner here in terms of things that are like modified.
What are we supposed to do? This is like social emotional. This is a curriculum.
Yeah, it would actually be easier, I think, if that.
This is kind of like a tree. So it's kind of all encompassing. Oh, yeah. Wherever you'd like them to go.
We had plans on you guys doing a four and a group of four.
Okay, we can do that.
But since it's all together, you guys can just find a seat. And
Is that-
all of them are preschool, all of them are going to talk, and you guys feel free to ask questions along the way. Okay, well then I'll take my
We're all gonna.
Please do it one and one set, just one set.
I guess let's. These are blocks.
But honestly, I think we would prefer just to have you all look at some stuff maybe and then just ask us questions and let us know what you're curious about.
Why don't you talk about it like you were doing like a back to school night parent kind of like walkthrough, just like do a little bit of content.
Okay.
Like how you would use pictures, how do you use the stuff? Yeah.
And so we would probably, Debbie was the one who actually created that slide that we used to use. And we're working work in progress. It is a work in progress. We actually were brainstorming a little bit more today about it, but we really look at all of these different components when we're planning pretty much every part of the day. Morning meeting.
Would that be easier, and then you guys can kind of, do you want us to just sort of talk to?
Yeah.
So.
Right, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, that might be easier. Well, they're fun, they're very high energy. So I'm the early childhood special ed teacher over at Baker Butler. So my role is a little bit different. I don't know if it makes more sense for you to start with Bright Stars and then I can kind of go to how we differentiate, or I can just sort of jump into what some of the things are that
I think one thing that you two share
and they observe for
plan the creative curriculum is the curriculum that's used to take notes. So and we're looking at all of the different domains that
But I think a good bit of our time. Oh, yeah.
The more that we've had experience with this, the more.
Yeah, so I can talk through what some of that looks like.
Every single piece.
My binder of fun things. So trees for us. So there are a lot of books that come with the curriculum,
academics,
particularly for ECSE. Some of them are more appropriate than others, and so we've been able to look for.
That really is that comes with the and we have found in the many years that we've done that.
So some will have to modify, some are appropriate as is, depending on the language level and developmental level of the group who's there. But really creative curriculum, like Lisa said, it's designed to have activities and studies that the kids can access. It's not dinosaurs, which are very cool, but there are no dinosaurs that we can go and see. Everybody can go see, right? So when we're doing tree study in the fall, we're playing outside with the trees. We're pulling it into our responsive classroom morning meetings. So we're looking at different pictures of leaves, and can we find leaves that are identical matches? Can we find leaves that are not identical matches? Can we then stand up and find our partner who has that? So we're pulling in that social skills component as well. This one, Spike Crew is very math oriented this year. They noticed, they wanted to count how many after we laid them all out on the ground. So leaves, roots, whatever that one was, there were 5. And then they wanted to see how many was in that. Okay, well then how? Which sets are the same? Which sets are different? Which has more? Which has less?
And I think for us to
run with it and go. But because we have kids with differing needs, like these ones that are black with a high contrast, I have a student who has cortical vision impairment, so he needs his materials to be high contrast. So we'll create
separate sets of materials. That's why all the slides that we use on the Smartboard are black and have yellow and red as the primary text colors, because he can see that more easily. It's actually easy for everybody else.
Tablets that can translate for you, or?
Doing different art projects that really improve the tree studies, so we work with our art teacher at Baker Butler, she's fabulous. So getting fine motor tasks, sensory activities, things like that. Really helps art.
But that's your
Question of the day is one of the things that comes up in there all the time, so are there trees at our playground? There are.
Technology, we can talk about that really
But then-
quickly. We don't use a lot
Yes.
of, like, the iPads. They were purchased for us during COVID so that our kids could
Oh,
use them. But we don't use them in our classroom that often, and I think our belief.
Or we
is that-
detoured, like, we
our
had
philosophy
little
is
trees that we
they
had
get
in the classroom,
tablet,
and so
phone,
for a couple of them, our
television, computer,
question of the day was,
any
how
type of
many leaves are there now?
technology. They have it
Particularly when the caterpillar got on the leaves
So we
and
want them to
started
have
eating them, that
authentic
number went down very quickly.
learning.
So that was interesting to like keep track of how many leaves there were.
Hands, yes. Now,
They
not
got
to say that
very
we
into
don't
this year
use
of
our
dictating
community
how to
boards,
draw
you know,
things
for
to go with some of the
educational
other
and academic
studies.
instruction,
So they would,
but
this was supposed to just be
rarely
about birds,
do they
but then
have
they wanted to
any
add people,
type
and they
of
wanted to add water for the birds, and they wanted to add.
So,
So, you know, we work on all that kind of stuff. It's just fun during the
EMS, one of the tasks
Our WOW study, or WOW experience, is for the second year in a row, they made a tree of gratitude for the whole school. So we worked on, you know, out in the hallways, painting the trunk and the branches, so they had that hands-on piece.
but he didn't know it was a triangle, but he knew that it was a subscribe.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you get any support from our,
No, those are my apples.
we don't?
We don't. I know that's a, yeah, that's a new thing that we're really hoping to get, that they will come and they will do the WIDA testing for us at the very end of the year. So that then gives them the information going into kindergarten so that they can receive the EL services starting in kinder. You know, they'll be given their WIDA level 1, 2, whatever it is, proficient. So, but we don't receive any hands-on service from EL. Now, if we have concerns or questions or needs, we always have the availability to reach out to the department.
Additional resources or services, even though.
Or support for families who are needing to register.
Yeah.
So you said 8 out of 8.
Learners. Last year I had 8 languages.
It's very.
8 languages, that was, I'm sorry, so mine was 8 languages out of 15, but she has 10 children in her class. And mine has changed, but I would probably say I'm pretty close, because I have my dominant, more than half of our students.
Materials that we do, love for next year.
Not that we limit them. They're very helpful. They are
very
super
well. I'm sure they
helpful.
are, but like.
But they'll be the first to tell you
There's
there's
two that are experiences, and that is part of the curriculum as well, is to show photographs.
I know that the director has introduced.
Yeah, Lauren's amazing.
And she's phenomenal. Very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
it's resources, which, you know, but we do.
Yeah, you do what you have to do.
And I also do have to say that is probably the beauty of preschool, is because we do so much with language and body and emotion.
Well, and so many of these kids already are like, it's hard enough like understanding a child that speaks English as a toddler. Like they have their own language anyway, right? Like so, you know, I get it, but at the same time, like people like.
Language acquisition is pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is pretty amazing to watch.
Yeah, especially.
People will ask, people outside of education will ask me, and my answer is always play and music.
Yeah, absolutely. And love, like,
Music is all day long.
But I think you're right, like when you're talking about what the emphasis is on family, if we're not giving support to those families and they can't speak English, how can they advocate for their kids? And if you're trying to set that precedent already by the time they get to kindergarten, to have that engagement, we're missing a huge opportunity.
One thing that really helps with that is the presentation Spanish is the division of the state that provides that.
Yes, they do.
And they have access to live translators and access to interpreters and they have access to, you know, the phone. And they
do a lot
with our kids.
So we do have that. That is definitely a much more
And we
positive
also,
aspect of our program.
I was going to say, like, within the early childhood, we're looking at the early childhood special ed program, the language delays that are often, you know, for their support, why the children are in the program. And so,
with the school.
even though it's coming from a different place, we're also having to be very mindful of what we're introducing when and the level at which different children are accessing the questions that we're talking about, or, you know, if they have communication devices, is everything, you know, programmed in on there? Picture schedules, whatever it is, to make sure that everyone can access that information, regardless of where their language level is.
So would that be in the kids' native language?
So there are, right, that would be lovely. There are a number of different AAC platforms that work with the Assistive Technology Department
has
together.
definitely opened up a lot of.
This student who's using this one, her home language is Pashto. They could also do Dari. They are not available to use apps or other apps that we get that would translate into those two. Spanish would get pretty easy.
Literally is like text messaging.
We're not able to find one that would go to Pashto or Dari, unfortunately. But that is something, we were just in a meeting with the family about it, and they had asked, like, well, we have sisters English.
Use it. It's on our personal site.
Shouldn't have them speaking English to her instead of Pashto. And we said, no, like, we really want you to be preserving your home language in the home for her. She's hearing English at school. She is learning it at school. We want to make sure that she's still hearing it today.
Yeah, so
but that was one of the things
answer
because she's going to be taking this home,
while I'm teaching, but.
great if we could
So anyways, we,
flip it
the
and let it
majority
be
of what we
Pashto
laid out
also.
today for you is social
But
emotional,
the
because we do spend a lot of time on the social emotional development.
Wait, yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. Class pictures.
So you guys are Bright Stars.
We are Bright Stars, so, yeah, and we are 100% Bright Stars, so we're not rated in with title or,
Social emotional piece of it.
that ECSE or, we do, we actually do have, I don't know if that's find out. That's maybe a conversation for later as well.
So a lot of our days spent teaching kids.
Typically through a pediatrician, right? I mean, a pediatrician will typically recommend that to the parents.
Strategies that we use.
It can be family,
Like
it can
kids
be anyone.
before, but you smell
It
your
can be
flowers,
a pediatrician,
and then block your meal.
care worker that refers them
Take a
to
deep breath,
child
because
find essentially,
this is
but
what
the
was the
state
beginning
takes
of the
on
year to kind of
students
understand
starting
how
at age
to
3.
breathe in through your nose and have something about. Otherwise, they just start panicking and then trying to learn to breathe.
Yes, we did.
But then you'll see them translate from.
Yes, she did.
Do you like us bringing this to you?
It looks vaguely familiar. And then there are some other things that we use to teach emotions at the very beginning of the year, so they can see what it looks like. And I'm just happy
User friendly.
It's just like, I wouldn't do that.
The content is wonderful. It does help guys, you know, with any new thing comes along, we're like, oh, we've got to learn one more new thing.
This child is amazing.
Every time you see a different, it's standing outside my office.
And then this is another area to teach breathing, where they're gonna breathe in and then out. But because we brought this photo to show some of the kids. This is that place.
With the criteria, just with the criteria.
So they went, they did their little breathing exercises together.
How does that work for a child like this? Like, would you put him in an ECSE class? So that's a really tricky question, because honestly, Debbie Schiller's class is amazing.
So even if you can't understand,
amazing access to
see exactly how it's feeling and practice that.
But they
And they
worked
can kind of
really
look
hard
at
to get them there, and to be honest,
ask for a break or
would have been a good ECSE candidate, but we really have to prioritize if a kid can stay in the Bright Stars class, they should stay in their Bright Stars class. So that's a
I
tricky
think also like
situation,
on the
but I will say
proactive part with social emotional, like we use responsive
Sheila, and I
classroom,
know that you have
morning
that.
meetings.
Because
So
I
we
did
start
research
our day that way.
right.
The kids
I
will see that when they start
absorbed
kindergarten.
from the Head Start.
So there's always a greeting that starts. So it's practicing how do you orient yourself to the person next to you. It may be eye contact, it may not, but we're going to orient, we're going to acknowledge the person next to us. At this point in the year, we're typically giving the person 2 choices. So before we start, there's limited to 1 greeting where you stay sitting down and 1 greeting where you can stand up. Because 2 choices where you stand up can get a little too exciting. So they get to pick 2, and then you would turn to your neighbor. There's one point. So would you like a high five or a tornado spin?
Yes.
And the other person can say which one they want. They both do that thing, and then turn to the next person.
For each kid.
And so learning that idea of how do you greet others, acknowledging that, using their names. And within the special ed room, how do you greet people that don't have the verbal
Yeah,
skills?
so that could, it's a great
All of the
question to
kids
ask
know how to
there,
do
because
this.
that's something that
So
we
they all
need
know
to do.
how to go into
Talked a lot
school
about
friends and say, you know, hi, Avery, or whatever it is, whoever they're greeting. Or that maybe somebody's just doing a high five, because that's their favorite thing right now, and they know, and even though that wasn't the choice, that's okay. We can just keep going with that. We do activity, which is usually movement-based and is something that's going to be bringing them together. We have a yoga video that is one of actually favorites at the moment. And then morning message, which is outlining kind of what to expect for the day. There's often a question in there. I think we have, what was one of the examples I put in? We're coming down to the end of the year, so what were we talking about? It was the librarian's last session with us was this past Monday, because we see her on Mondays. And so this is going to be our last day with Ms. Harmon for this year. What's a way that we can give her a special goodbye at the end of library today? So giving them some information about the day, adding in questions that sort of think ahead about how you're going to prepare for something. That's when we look at who's not here today. Okay, we write them down, we wish them well. There's certain things we want a picture of the we wish you well said to them when they're not there, so that they know that we wish them well. But that kind of, it sets off the day, and that's what they're going to have when they go into kindergarten also. Is to, they're already know that format of incorporating all those
students with IEPs for typically develop.
Oh, I thought you said pecan.
Yeah, that's one of my questions was, you're saying that some of the kids can't please be like, do we have to meet those numbers? Like, we've got no What I'm saying is like, if the class can fit 12 students, because we have 12 students that need an IEP, that have an IEP, that need to go to those
Can you go over that?
Can you go into it or not have gen ed kids so that you're meeting the need of all this?
That's a great question. I feel like moving forward, it's questions like those to think like, well, what if we didn't have peers in the classes, that we just worked back to the brainstorm and said, you know, so I feel like different answers to say. I will say like the A4 model is considered inclusive, but still considered self-contained.
Sure.
Yeah, and so that's where the challenge is like you're giving them peer access, but it's still not inclusion, it's still not.
And like,
I'm sorry, excuse me.
No, you're fine. Let me just switch.
I think that's probably a longer conversation that we need to have.
Well,
It's high on my list.
You get me started on this stuff.
No, I know. Well, me too. I mean, you know, I'm happy to. But I just want to, like, that's where
I do think there's ratios of teachers and maybe like IEP students. We use this last word, but I do think, and this was the feedback that a lot of teachers have given me this year, is that it's almost like they would rather be focused on students. These cards are use the Bright Stars to integrate with. Now, I do think that the 6-6 model has value.
They're very quick.
You know, but I think that right now we have ACSD was the first.
Because they didn't know that any resources were unlimited, sure, that would be great, but like, there's especially kids that are not numbers of percentages with kids in classrooms, so we're denying.
Yes.
That's where like I wonder.
And that's interesting too, because I know, like from my understanding, we really hand. Like, we can't just say like, I'm sorry, it's full, like, you know, here's a wait list. So that's been kind of the last few months, and it's been like a real puzzle piece of figuring it out, and partnering with some community agencies who's been able to help support, like, they have like an early childhood program,
And they can get around on feedback next. They understand
but,
why that means, they train for in the morning meetings, how to
Yeah.
talk to people.
For the context, so that's
Yeah, no,
it also depends. So we always have.
It's a big challenge. But I would say in general, a month there, you're all feeling, at least like they can feel safe.
Do you wear
It's pretty amazing. I have one boy who came in not speaking English at all, and now he translates for parents. And he is pretty amazing. Yeah.
I mean, are you, do you have any challenge of getting special ed teachers in pre-K? I mean, I know we've had, because you did one or two times. Last year we had all of our special ed teachers here, and the one where it's like in the fall.
My upper body will tan very well, but my
I get tends to track about like the rest of the special ed staffing that you might be able to speak to that better actually.
Oh, I agree with that.
And so we staffing for special ed pre-K. Literacy, no, but getting are we able to like to staff it, having staffing issues?
I don't want to.
Yeah, we've been included in the special education staff. Just do one of them.
I know, years ago.
And just think,
I know a couple years ago. Yeah, and then my
so they were able to choose different activities to show their parents something with how they know their turnover.
Just with the added demand of everybody. And now there is a lot more opportunity for special education pre-K teachers to be implementing.
And so these are just looking at just
class observations, and to be doing
it's great. And again, it's so powerful because it is pre-K 5. So our pre-K kiddos are doing the same exact thing as our kids. Now, that's not in every school. We're lucky that we have that. But because of this, we thought we want to get our kids out. And I'm from Mississippi.
I was born in Boston.
Just because they're sleeping because they look excited or whatever, you know, their schedules. So we try to
That's the most important thing. You
Yeah.
are successful at coaching, whether it be teaching assistants or
I mean, I didn't work there. Aside from that,
It is. Yeah.
specifically with these special education. I think that what we're all about, there's reasons why we're all here together, is I get the future of pre-K and all that. I get a lot of forward just to have opportunities of children's IEPs and graduate programs and special education.
Yeah, we have that option if that's needed. Yeah, absolutely. So the only other component that we put in here was the literacy, just because I know the laws talks a lot about literacy, which so much of our literacy is oral language communication. But obviously we have to do a ton of read alouds, vocabulary development. That is one of the other nice things too with creative curriculum that comes with some text. Not always do we things with the text or free text, but we will then find supplemental text because the read aloud, vocabulary, language, all of that is so we do spend so much time helping the kids.
Yeah, we're not really curious.
So you don't have ones that extend
It's just pre-K or whatever, and what's the
So it's difficult to use
with our peers, like pass rates versus kids that were not in a pre-K program. Because I feel like, you and I were that early childhood, not reading and access to it, and like you said, just the oral skills, the conversations, things like that. Plays such an important role.
Sometimes me and I don't know how to register for pre-K.
Well, that was part of my question too. I mean, there were, what, 300 plus applications, 200 motivates them to want to be.
Yeah, well, and I would imagine.
Was there outreach for them? Is this a group of parents that are very active and well, I'm going to register my kids, or is it extensive outreach to sort of grab them?
We do a lot of community resources. The free bus registration process.
Free book bus. She's incredible.
Yeah, I met her during the campaign. Posters all everywhere, doctor's offices. Programs too. Every school has a sign that says register your 4-year-old. So it is, I mean, some families, they know they need support for their child and they want free testing.
Yes.
So some of them will, especially if they have older children, but otherwise it's a lot of we have space for you, but they don't really know that it's available until expressing because these high school students, I would say, and that's a big part of it, is support workers for your and we sat outside on the bare blankets in the front and they read books to the children. I think I have one.
You might have a picture of that.
Hey guys, we have about 3 more minutes. Actually, I think, I told you. Okay.
But you have like curriculum guides like this for everything that you teach.
So from that.
Yeah, so we,
It's fantastic. And
Ah.
it's totally great. But we were
yeah, so
able
we
to
have
create
created
numeracy
into the boxes that come with,
they had. So these are the
instructional teaching cards, the books, yeah, so we have those for each of the
Yeah,
units.
so something varies, yeah, and they just put together, and so they, absolutely.
I know you wanted to play with it. Do not come with it.
We actually ended up creating based off of that.
I know, right.
Based off of that.
So can you not on?
Okay, that's the fun, got it, okay.
No, so anything else that is not, doesn't fit in that box, we get separately.
Because apples come
So we use those like for counting activities.
And all of the little cross sections. That's pretty cool.
I guess this has to be exciting and exhausting. Depending on the day.
Depending on the day, exactly.
Absolutely.
Guys, we'll clean it up. We'll clean it up after.
Yeah, sure.
You can just like leave it.
Oh, without a doubt. There's so much, like Debbie was saying, play, music, literature. Like those are such key. We did. Breaking it in. That's
All right, let's see. So in closing, I don't know if you guys can hear me. I can speak
No,
up.
take it on.
Say that again. There we go. So in closing, actually, what we'll do is, we're not going to go through all of them, but I really wanted you guys to get an example of how our families feel about the gift that they get here in Albemarle County by allowing their child to attend a public preschool program. So we've included several letters and a video, and probably something to note about the video is that the video is actually from a kindergarten parent, a current kindergarten parent whose child attended the Bright Stars program at Agner Hurt. And she was being interviewed because part of what we do is we host what's called Kindergarten Transition Night, and our parents come and learn about what to expect, the differences between preschool and kindergarten. So we kind of set them up for that. But I'm just going to read the very first one, and you guys can certainly at your leisure read the others. But this is a letter that was written by a parent. She says, I am Hamida Sharif, Bahar's mother. We came to the U.S. on September 6th of this year. Migration is always challenging, but if I did not find Greer School and Miss Subra, it would be worse and frustrating. Bahar started learning, socializing, and playing in Greer School. I could not believe that after 1 week, she woke up soon to go and see her friends and lovely teacher, Ms. Subra and Ms. Patterson. It is incredible that after 8 months, Bahar can speak in English and understands people's speech very well. Greer School and wonderful teachers made the life easier for us. I wholeheartedly appreciate. Bahar is confident and sociable now. That is why we do preschool. So this is one example, and this is Bahar on her first day, and I think if you really just look closely, you can see the apprehension in her little expression. She's trying to figure out where she's at and what's happening. And here she is, sharing her learning with her parents, and here she is, a confident, ready to go to kindergartner. So with that, we open the floor for questions for all of us.
I actually have a couple, but first of all, I want to say this was really impressive, and I think we only scratched the surface, and I'm excited to delve into it. I have a niece who is in the ECSC A-based program at Stone Robinson, and she is nonverbal autistic, and when she started in April of 2023, she couldn't speak at all. And now she's been living with my sister, and she had been living with me for the last year as she was going through a divorce. And now she says, "Hi, Auntie," every day when she gets home, and she talks, and she uses her tablet to communicate and ask for things when she used to just throw a fit. And it's remarkable. And they have actually been potty training her, and within the first week, she was like mostly potty trained. And my sister works, and so I just think that's incredible. And so, you know, my family has benefited greatly from our special ed services, but to see her really thrive in that preschool environment has been phenomenal. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it, and my family appreciates it. I did have a question. You were talking about the transportation issues. Is that part of our greater transportation issue with Albemarle County, or are there specific issues related to preschool that kind of are outside of other transportation issues that we deal with?
I would probably lean in and say that, you know, historically, the way that our transportation system in Albemarle County Public Schools is set up is buses transport to and from the school where the child lives. Like, we typically don't have buses that are taking kids from Stony Point, say, to Baker Butler. If you live in the Stony Point district, you can get on a bus and ride that bus. So I would say that it is more about the idea that our buses have defined routes. If we made it possible for every child to get on a bus and be driven to a school where a program is, I think there would probably need to be a significant number of increase in drivers and the development of routes, for sure. You know, as I think about, honestly, like when I think about that, I just think about it from the standpoint of it is a barrier, but I think that we can start thinking strategically about how we can break that barrier.
Yeah, I'm just curious about that because if we're not offering every program at every school, it seems like it's an issue for me that if there's a program that's across the county that is the best suited for this child and a parent can't provide transportation, then we're denying that student the right to an education.
I was going to also say, Allison, I think what's also important to note is that if a child is identified with an IEP because of special education, I mean, that's one of the reasons why you see such disparity between what it costs for an ECSE child versus a Bright Stars child. Those children, by law, are provided with transportation.
Yeah.
So our most at-risk children find a way to preschool regardless of where they live when they have that
Right.
IEP.
But also think about the fact that those kids who are already special needs often spend more than an hour on the bus each way to get to preschool, which is a lot for a 3 or a 4-year-old, especially without a parent. So that's just part of a bigger thing that I think that we need to, like you said, think creatively and strategically how we can address this issue, because I do think that that is a barrier to some kids being able to get to preschool and be able to be provided that service, which, as we talked about, really sets these kids up for success if we can get them into the program. So that's just something I was curious about, and I want to delve in a little bit more. And then I think Julia answered my other question, which had to do with the ECSC and the integration of with our numbers of gen ed students, but that's something I'm a little bit interested in exploring too, and making sure that we're providing the services we need to all the students that are eligible for it. But she and I said we would talk about that some more later, so. Great. I think that was it. Thank you.
Others?
Thank you guys so much. This was a great program, and I think it's so important to help people see the great work that you do, because this is the way we really will make a difference in our third grade reading scores. I mean, that's my big thing. I'm curious about, because I think what do you see differences across schools, but to what extent are the programs provided with specials? We talked a little bit about English learning support. What type of kind of additional supports are provided that kind of similar to what like a kindergarten class would? How is that the same and different?
I think this year really was an impactful year. All of our buildings did a really, really nice job of, I think Rosalind, you can certainly speak to this probably even better than me. Rosalind made sure that building level administrators knew and understood that when they got their staffing, that the numbers for the preschoolers that sit inside their building are part of that staffing matrix. And so I think that you can ask the teachers that are inside this room, we prioritize based on the way that our program is designed. We prioritize physical education and we prioritize guidance because we believe with what our program is that many of our children do not have access to getting outdoors the way they need to because of where they live. And we also know that a lot of times they are experiencing things in their homes that we need to help them understand and know how to work through. And so classroom guidance and physical education were prioritized, and principals were told, please make sure that your Bright Star students receive this. And I can say that all of our schools were able to get the specials, with the exception of Woodbrook, because Woodbrook was being housed at Agner Hurt for this year. It was a challenge for the Agner Hurt guidance counselor to serve the kids with all of what they had. And then it was a great challenge for Woodbrook to free up their guidance counselor to come over. And so those students were not able to receive classroom guidance. I think that there's a mission and a commitment that all of our preschool classrooms receive those specials. And again, like I said, that's thanks to Rosalind and Craig making sure that our principals understand that that needs to happen.
It's wonderful. What about English? We talked a little bit about that because I mean that dramatic.
Now that is very
what
different.
you're seeing, as well as the fact that if you're able to assimilate to English, the earlier you do, the better prepared you are. So
I think that is something that we definitely need to start thinking about, Rebecca. But what I can tell you right now is that the way we identify children to receive English language services is they actually take a placement test called the WIDA. And the WIDA is not administered to preschoolers. And so because we don't have any way of measuring who needs it, right now we don't offer English language services at the preschool level.
Got it.
Is there
I was just going to say, it is important to note that right now, I work very closely with Laura McLean from the ESO office, and we go student by student at each school, and we determine which students are going to be, there's a matrix, I guess, that she works off of, or a rubric. And so we determine before they leave preschool if they will receive ESOL services on day one of kindergarten.
Is there some sort of test that's out there that we're just not using that would allow us?
That's a good question. Can I get back to you on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious.
I would be making up that answer.
If we could create one or something that would, get us those services for those kids.
Yeah, that's something I will definitely look further into.
Dr. Hauser and Rosalind, did we put 2 years ago, we put an extra kind of, I hate to say floater, but there was an extra unassigned English learner teacher, I'm not sure if that's the right classification, in the budget that we said we would look at numbers, and then I'm just wondering if that's a possibility to provide, to look at that. Those teachers, and if we have some that we were kind of holding back until we saw the numbers in K-12, would it be possible to think about providing that support?
Yeah,
You
so
don't have
I
to
would
answer
feel
now.
better if Lauren were here to discuss
Okay,
that. I know as we made our way through the budget process for fiscal year '24, Ellen pointed out that every year we staff it, and then you get so
Right.
far into the year
Yeah.
and it's grown, so why not
Yeah.
add staffing? And so we did do that, and lo and behold, moving into this year, it grew significantly at the Newcomer Center. So we ended up, I believe, using all that staffing. But it would be good to get a follow-up from Lauren on that
Yeah.
question.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Well, and I wonder about supporting the teachers on that. I mean, it's one thing for to know that kids can't speak English, but how can we better support the teachers when it's very obvious to them that the student, regardless of what level the child could ever test at, it's very obvious if the child doesn't speak English to the teachers. How can we better support the teachers through professional development? Can we dedicate some PD
Well,
time?
and I asked the Greer teachers that, and they're using their personal cell phones for Google Translate, and they're using the Remind app, which translates their message. So they're finding ways around it, but I think that's, again, using what you have to serve your students, and, maybe something we need to look at more closely.
Ellen, to speak to yours, I will tell you that Lauren and I recently talked about what PD can look like next year at the pre-K level. So she and I are actually working right now to try and figure out how we can bring some of that ESOL teaching knowledge and experience over to our teachers, so even if it's just a certain few tricks and strategies that can get them started. So we are on that.
Could you go back to the first slide you were showing with some test results?
Sure.
Okay.
Oops,
Right,
I passed it. There you
yeah,
go.
right there. But you said these were just released, right? So it was from this spring.
Nope, these were just released to me on Monday, May 13th, but this is our fall data. This is our baseline data, Graham.
Right. Okay, well, my question is, will there be any penalties or any type of repercussions for us looking at our beginning scores compared to the state averages? Will there
No, like right now, the Virginia the VQB5 measurement system uses what I spoke about earlier with the class interactions and the curriculum. That is how the quality of the program is being currently evaluated starting in the fall of 2024. This is where it's a little bit different than SOLs. The actual academic progress of the preschool programs is not something that gets equated into the quality birth to 5 profile, quality rating.
Okay, thanks.
I have a couple questions. Are we using the EMAS as a kindergarten assessment?
Yeah, actually, VKRP is preschool and kindergarten, which is really nice, Chuck, because it's a continuum. So you do get to see, for kids who do go to a Virginia public preschool, you do get to see their data. I think that's also really important when you're thinking about our children that are in special education, because we're starting to collect data from the time that they're 3. So by the time that they're 5, you should be able to see a pattern of strengths and weaknesses that really allow you to hone in instructionally for those children.
And the other question, that's great, I'm glad to hear that. The other question I have is, I wonder how many 4-year-olds are out there that need pre-K that we're not serving. Do you have a feeling for that?
Well, we're trying. I do think that as the coordinated enrollment application, this is truly our second year through the United Ways Go to Grow application process that we are tracking applications collectively. So I think we're getting better at being able to monitor that. I try like I'm in the middle of application season right now, Chuck, and what I will do is I have a massive spreadsheet, every application that comes in. I literally, the very last category in the application sheet says, what can we recommend? And sometimes we can recommend VPI, sometimes we can recommend ECSC as a reverse inclusion program, and almost always, if they don't get placed in one of those, I then will call the parent and say, would you like to go on a wait list? If we have openings in other schools, we'll place them in those schools. So we have better tracking devices now to literally see the number of applications that come in, the number of applications we place, and the number of applications that are sitting on the bench, so to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck asked the question I was going to ask, but following that, we have about 1,000 kindergartners, so we have about 230-ish kids in our pre-K.
We probably a little bit more than that when you're counting ECSC,
so,
yeah.
Well, just in terms of our school division, we've got 30% we know are free and reduced, lunch eligible. Thank you. And higher percentage than the 25% that are going to our pre-Ks. Do we take data when kids start kindergarten to know generally if they've been to pre-K, any kind of pre-K? I'm looking at the sliver of kids that don't have any pre-K.
There was a question when the kids registered, and Rosalind, I'm going to lean maybe to you and Craig on this. There used to be a question when the children were filling out their registration, did your child attend pre-K? And then they identify that. Is that still part of? Oh, yeah. All the kids that are in a public preschool, that data follows. But if you didn't attend a public preschool and you attended another preschool, do we know if that child attended another preschool?
And then by inference, who didn't
So
attend
I
any?
can actually answer that question if you want. So there is we're beginning to see data because of the Ready Region Virginia system, and so Ready Region Blue Ridge, which is ours, because again, every program that has a child is going through kind of similar data. It's not as inclusive as ours, but children in the private preschools. So I think there will be a time pretty soon where we definitely potentially could look at our data. That would be a love to follow it through, but I think through some of the Ready Regions data.
And Rebecca, you're spot on that. So for example, if you know Foundations Preschool actually takes a certain number of children through VPI. Since they do that, all their children participate in the VKRP assessments. So some of the private providers that receive public funding, they follow, if you take any public dollars, you're engaging in VKRP assessments. So we are probably going to be able to track even our private providers who take public funding. We'll be able to get VKRP data on those incoming kindergartners as well.
I was really wondering if those at-risk kids who did not get it anywhere could be identified and have special resources on the first day of kindergarten. That's where I was.
Yeah. Something for me to certainly bring back. We have a really strong regional preschool network through Ready Regions. We do a lot of talking about all things pre-K. I think that's a really good question to bring to that table. And as I get information, I will gladly share it with the board.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
I just had one quick follow-up off of the specials. So if the pre-K classes and preschool classes are not getting all of the specials right now, does that mean that the teachers are not getting planning time and the things that...
Pre-K is definitely different than K-12. Trying to find planning time at the same level that our K-12 teachers receive it. It's out of balance. Do they get some planning time? Yes. Is it equal to the K-5 planning? No.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to investigate a little bit more too, and look at making sure that, our
Julia's going to talk specifically to ECSE on this.
ECSE dismisses for a half day on Fridays to try and incorporate for additional planning time for
Right.
pre-K teachers, which is limiting for us because then there are certain repercussions from that as a division where we don't have technically a full preschool program. But I think it's also just unique to pre-K that the length of many K through 5 specials really isn't developmentally appropriate for pre-K kids often. And a lot of, I think, schools will view nap time as planning time, which if you've ever been in one of these classes during nap time, it's not effective planning time. So
Every mother knows that too. You don't get anything done during nap
That is their planning
time.
time. So I think that, there's been efforts to try and work around that and to add to that, but yes, I would just like to echo that also on the ECSE side of things, even though we have that half-day planning, it's not a perfect system just yet.
Yeah, okay. Just something to put out there, I think is something to be considered as far as how our preschool teachers are being treated and things that they're getting or are owed. It should be considered as
I will
equal
say
to all the other
that
teachers in the school.
Our preschool, we do take full advantage of our DPLC times to bring all of the preschool network together. We use that as a time to kind of anchor anything that's new that we're having to learn collectively. That's a nice time. It's not planning, but it is a good time to connect with others. And I think that's really important because in most cases, these guys are islands. There's only one of them in a school. And so we try really, really hard to embed opportunities for them to come together, to share resources, to learn together.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's no team to be doing lesson plans together and sharing across classrooms or things like that. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to thank you all and just recognize that you have to see some 4-year-olds in a very short amount of time, so just thank you very much. If anyone on the board has any other comments or questions, we can certainly send them along. But thank you, I appreciate your late time here tonight.
I was just going to say, Judy, I really love that you said that. One of my teachers said, I go to bed at 9 to 9:30. Are we going to be done?
Be careful driving home is all
I want to
can tell you
thank
about that.
all of you guys for being willing to have us here, for listening to our story, and please know that you are welcomed in any of our preschool classrooms, any day, anytime. You might be put to work, and you might come out dirty, but I promise you, you will come out happy.
Thank you very
all
much.
very much. Thank you.
Okay. All right, last we have other business by board members and superintendent. Any other business?
I have something.
Okay.
I would like to appoint Miss Betsy Soulsby to represent the Rio District on the ACES committee. If you guys don't remember what that is, it's the Committee for Environmental Sustainability. And it would be for a term of 2 years.
Okay, do you want to make a motion to that?
Yeah, that's my, okay. I make a motion that we appoint Ms. Soulsby.
Second.
All right, moved by Chuck Pace, seconded by Ellen Osborne. Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Okay, so moved. Thank you. Any other business? Nope. All
I
right.
told you more about her, but it's all right.
Okay.
We have
All right.
my hygienist, I know her. She and I were.
She's
great.
very, very
Yeah.
involved, yeah.
All right. No other business. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.